watching Figure Speech by Penny the Hall on YouTube.
Hello and welcome to another edition of Figure Speech. Today we're going to be taking a look at a figure that released back a few years ago, and that is Clone Pilot Hawk. This little sub-series I like to pay tribute to Out of the Basement series, that is Black Series Banger, where they go over the course of other figures that released over the years and express to people who may be new to the hobby or not know about other figures that released just because of time, why they might be worthy of pickup or just an eye out if you're ever out and about in the wild hunting at a convention. And I believe that Clone Pilot Hawk here is a very much certified Black Series banger for a multitude of reasons, both in the figure itself and everything that led up to this figure being made and created. A big part of that actually is, and we'll get this out of the way first, is the packaging itself. This figure was released back in May of 2021 as a Clone Wars commemorative and appreciation wave by Target. It came alongside ARC Trooper Echo, Obi-Wan, and Anakin, all in their Clone Wars appearances. And Hawk, out of all of those guys, left a lot of people scratching. Wow, that's kind of a weird person to throw in there, but you know what? We'll take it. It's awesome to have Phase 2 Clone Pilot in general, because they have been rather tough to find in the figure community in general, especially if you were back in the day of the Clone Wars, back in 2011 when this character first was seen in this appearance. The only real opportunities to have a Phase 2 Clone Pilot in general was through the Lego set, where you saw a Z9 Headhunter in the Darkness of Umbara episodes. You got a 501st just regular Clone Pilots, and that was cool. But if Lego wasn't your style, the next best thing was a vehicle pack-in of really derpy looking clone dropship with the Phase 2 Clone Pilot, which he kind of looked a little non-proportionalized to other clones in general. So it's been a journey to get to this point of faithful Clone Pilot representation in the figure community. And a little last tidbit as to why I really appreciate not only this packaging but the figure itself is I am all too familiar with the term peg warmer and the undesirables when it comes to figures itself. I remember growing up, no one really bought Clone Pilot Oddball on the shelves. I remember just seeing him always on the pegs at Walmart, at Kroger, at all these other places that just did not sell these Clone Pilot Oddballs. So to have another Clone Pilot on the same exact packaging is really cool, and just I don't know, it brings me back to the days of the Clone Wars as it aired not only on Cartoon Network, but it's ramping up to it in general, because this packaging was, again, from the very first Clone Wars line. You can see right here, it is obviously a part of the 50th anniversary of Lucasfilm. We'll take a quick look at the background. Not too much to see there, but hey, it is what it is. Taking a closer look at the figure itself, it is a reuse of the Rex and Bly body, which is one of the first great things about this figure that sets it apart from the rest. The big difference that those two figures introduced to the mold line is the fact that it has much deeper cut elbow to bicep cuts. You're able to get much more than a 90-degree crunch there, and that's something that is very much appreciated in dynamic posing in general. As you can kind of see, I had him just holding his belt here. That's something that is kind of tougher to get on other figures that came out on the I don't know what the body's called, but the pre-2020 body. This was a retooling of that, but it is very much a step up in many ways. Another thing that I really appreciate about the figure itself is the fact that we get a brand new helmet and head sculpt. looks like it's plucked right off the screen. It is very much just a cool design in my opinion, and I appreciate it. You have the breathing apparatus on his chest that is tubed up to his mouthpiece there. A little thing to note, I guess, is it does look like it's a separate piece, but it is not removable at all. If you break it off, you break it off, so be mindful of that. Another really great thing about this figure is the paint application. Anywhere you see blue on the guy is obviously paint application, but you also see a good amount of weathering throughout the figure itself, especially on that other shoulder guard. And you might say to yourself, oh, that's weird. Why in the world would Hasbro make a clone pilot, a person who just sits in a cockpit all day, have weathering? Well, I mean, he has weathering on his shoulder in his hero image down here, and very much so in the rest of the figure itself, or the character. Hawk obviously is one of the veterans of the 501st. I remember first seeing him in Hidden Enemy back in season 1 of the Clone Wars, and I remember thinking to myself as a kid, that's such a cool take on a clone pilot. And another cool thing to kind of just see how this figure transcended and changed over the years is his Phase 1 appearance had a slightly different decal on his helmet. He had a full Hawk on his Phase 1 clone pilot's look, and then here you just see him have the wings. I don't know, I think that's just something cool to note. I think it reminds me a lot of the Nike, the winged runner. And it's cool to see those wings seen on, I don't know, the blast shield of his helmet. I don't know, it's a really cool helmet to just look at and ponder. It also has paint that goes all around the back of the helmet, which is something that sometimes the Black Series skips out on, so it's nice to see that paint be carried through there. And speaking of paint, a thing that sets this guy apart from others that lots of people do not point out is the fact that it is, in my opinion, a coral blue number 5 as a wetsuit that he wears underneath. If you can look, it looks a little bit more purple or not exactly black. And if we bring in a figure that reuses this same exact body, which is the Clone Jet Trooper, we can see that if you compare those elbows, that there is a clear color difference in that elbow on the left and that elbow on the right. So I don't know, I think it's something cool. I think that is certainly, maybe they were running low on toner when they were printing off these guys, but it's something to be mindful of, and just something to that makes him a little bit different from the rest. More of an individual, as you say. Another thing that very much makes this mold an individual, although I say it is the Rex and Bly body, I think it has been redubbed as the Hawk body because his shin guards are on the opposing sides of his legs. I've never really noticed it, nor have I cared about it, but to some it is a deal of the fact that his shin's down here, that is actually his left shin and that is his right shin. In the manufacturing itself, they swapped those pieces by accident, I am sure, but it is something that people who very much pay attention and customized figures have pointed out in the figure itself. He only comes with a DC-15A carbine, which is kind of funny. It's a pilot. I don't know what else you can really give him. I remember they gave Matchstick back in the standard Clone Wars line. They gave him a minigun. Like, what's a pilot gonna do with a minigun? What's a pilot gonna do with a big carbine? So for the most part, I like to just have him posing in his parade rest, where he's just hands behind the back, looking sharp the same way he does down there in his packaging itself. But that's enough about the figure and posing. Let's get into some comparisons. Here we have Inferno Squad Trooper, which, let's be honest, it's just a TIE pilot. And one thing that I really enjoy about the fact that we see these designs influence one another is, if you take a look obviously at the breathing apparatus, their, of course, Republic transitioned to the Empire, but it's really cool to see how they have lots of the similar beats with cylinder at the bottom, obviously the breathing tubes going into the helmet itself, which on my Infernal Squad Trooper, the tube has broken off on the left side of his device, and arguably the tube is suffering the same thing on the Clone Pilot Hawk, where it's slowly wearing and tearing. So if you are going to be searching for this figure on the aftermarkets, be mindful that there might be some wear or damage to the helmet itself or the breathing tubes. It's nothing a little super glue can't fix, but it's just something to be mindful of. One of his wave mates, that is Clone Wars Anakin Skywalker, Clone Captain Rex, a Mafex regular clone trooper, SH Figuarts Jango Fett, and a McFarlane Dr. Richtofen. So wrapping up some final thoughts on the figure itself. It is a very good body with a very great character that is, for the most part, rather easy to find online, and also if you're at a local toy convention, maybe you can find a good deal on him, because again, he is rather decent in the pricing. I paid $20 for him. I think you can too. And if you're afraid, why do I have a Clone Pilot in my collection? It doesn't really go with much. It can go with a little bit more than you think. It goes nicely in the sense of an aerial combative trooper with a jet trooper. You know, I bet these two guys probably crossed paths once or twice, and if you're lucky enough to have Captain Rex, or you don't have a Captain Rex, you can get just about every pose out of Hawk as you can out of Rex here. Again, they share the same body. Yeah, the legs are kind of a nuisance, but I don't think that should hinder you too much from not only posing him, but enjoying the figure itself. And then lastly, just as a Clone Wars appreciator, you know, we never got this figure back in the era of his debut, and Clone Pilots were tough to come around, and it is important to appreciate those things when they come back in full circle. And I'm holding out hope that this figure and this specific sculpt is reused and maybe fixed a little bit for things like the Bad Batch, where we see Imperial pilots, and once those start going up, I have a feeling that Hawk here will become very desirable in the aftermarket. So that about does it here for this edition of Figure of Speech. Thank you so much for tuning in and watching all the way through. I really appreciate your support, and it has been so fun going through these figure reviews and just sharing my opinion on pieces that I've wanted to share for oh so long. I'm really happy that you took your time out of your day to check me out and appreciate them along with me. So that being said, have a good one. Make sure to smash that like button, subscribe, turn on that notification bell, and as always, I'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye.